So we start our story with Duncan being himself as usual, complaining. About? Well, everything. That's no shock, really. And Skarloey wasn't having it at all. He was actually rather pleased that Rheneas would be returning home soon, at least in accordance with this specific narrative.
Thank goodness Rheneas is coming home soon. Perhaps he'll teach you some sense before it's too late. What has Rheneas to do with me? Rheneas saved our railway, replied Skarloey. Please tell us about it, said Peter Sam.
Wow, it looks like my request has been answered, although indirectly. This has been the season of flashbacks, holy handbrakes. We can't just tell things in order, huh? Well, according to Skarloey, their railway was a part of Arlesdale at the time and was turning to crap, and it was only them two keeping it going. When Skarloey became tired, it was Rheneas who would pick up the slack, even though he was just as old.
He was often short of steam, but he always struggled to a station and then rested there. I mustn't stop between stations, he'd say. The passengers wouldn't like it. Huffed Duncan. He had stopped on a viaduct and hadn't cared at all.
Really? Like any of the viewers forgot exactly one story ago? Of course Duncan didn't care. He still didn't have his polish rubbed down. However, I didn't think the polish is truly what Duncan wants. I bet if he had anything that made him feel special, he wouldn't complain. Skarloey emphasized that passengers were the key to an operating railway and began telling the story when Rheneas experienced this problem too.
One wet and windy afternoon when the rails were damp, Rheneas was traveling home with a full train. There were even passengers in the caboose. It wasn't a comfortable ride at all.
I can imagine. Packed trains are not that enjoyable. Usually not everyone has a seat, which means people are too close for comfort. This can make riders even more irritable. The weather wasn't helping either. Being that the rails were wet, Rheneas's wheels were having a hard time getting the proper traction. But he kept going, like any determined engine would. Unfortunately, that was going to be the least of his problems soon.
I've got a cramp, he groaned. And Rheneas stopped on the loneliest part of the line. His driver examined him carefully. Your valve gear has jammed. We need to reach the next station. Do you think you can still get us there?
Interesting how certain parts of the engines mimic that of human muscle issues. Next, engines will need prescription glasses to see. I'm going to regret that claim, aren't I? Anyway, Rheneas made another attempt and continued moving even though he was hurting. The only thing that kept him going was by reminding himself that he was the only thing left keeping the line up and running. It was the only way he was going to motivate himself. I gotta tell you though, that's putting immense emotional pressure on those axles of his. But it all paid off.
Finally, tired but triumphant, Rheneas reached the station. I'm here at last, he wheezed. Thank you for getting us home, said the passengers. We'll tell all our friends what a fine railway this is.
I would say so. And if they didn't make it, would they have said it was a bad railway? Even if Rheneas mechanically failed again, I would still give him credit for trying. Sure, I wouldn't be happy with the situation, but I wouldn't be mad at him. The way George Carlin made it sound, it was like they would only be happy if Rheneas made it. What are these passengers, two-faced or something? Forgetting that question, though, as Skarloey finished his story, Duncan actually had a change in opinion. That's shocking to me, though. Skarloey could have also mentioned when one of his springs popped. Whatevs, yo. Maybe Duncan will finally turn round a little bit. Shortly thereafter, Rheneas was arriving on scene.
Edward pushed his truck to the siding, where he was lifted onto his rails. This was the signal for a chorus of whistles from engines large and small. Everyone was happy, and Rheneas was the happiest of all. You know, he whispered to Skarloey, this helps a little engine to feel that at last he has really come home.
For the first time ever in this show, 14 episodes in and we finally hear Rheneas open his mouth. Sheesh. Took long enough. I really don't get why this narrow gauger was put on the back burner for so freaking long. I feel bad for the engine. He really isn't a favorite of mine, but maybe that's because so little has been done with him. I'm just thankful we at least got something out of this guy. Although I must say it wasn't that deviant from Skarloey's. Both suffered from mechanical issues and chugged all the way until their final stop. Hoo-ha. I'm giving the episode a slight positive because it's about Rheneas, but other than that, it's largely forgettable. I want to see something interesting done with this engine. Whenever that's going to happen. We didn't even get a theme song for the guy. Now, I'm not discrediting the music, not at all. The entry starts off with Duncan's bouncy cue, and then much of the rest is the stormy weather music. It's all good, but the fact that this is Rheneas' first official appearance and he has no motif is sad. Then again, Sir Handel and Duke don't really have one either. Lastly, for the sets, the Sodor Castle Causeway is shown, although a bit foggier now, as well as the Hull and Dory line, and Rheneas' bridge. What was clear to see was Skarloey's station, and one last visit of the old rundown Arlesdale sheds. Not sure we'll be seeing those again. Next episode is Rusty to the Rescue. Thanks for watching.